What's up, San Diego? Good morning to all of you out there. Happy Mother's Day to everybody in town, in America's finest city. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. It's been a great time the last couple of months talking with you each and every Sunday. Recap of the Padres on a Saturday night, previewing them on a Sunday, mixing in some other content as well. Today, be most of the same. And obviously a lot to talk about when it comes to this Padres-Dodgers series that has started this weekend, come underway this weekend. Yes, I'm wearing my Mr. Relevant shirt in honor of Jurickson Profar, right? I had to buy the shirt after the whole fiasco he had with Will Smith and everything like that. Will Smith hasn't really done anything since then, but Jurickson Profar's had a great year, which is great to see. I went to the game last night. And, it's always fun to go down to Petco Park, but, last night it's tough when there's just so many Dodger fans there. And there were a lot of Dodger fans there last night. And, it's going to be a commonplace, I think, for a long time. As long as that team is good, they're going to make the trip to a lot of different places to watch their team. They have a national brand. I mean, they're like the Raiders. They're like the Cowboys in the National Football League, where they have this big fan base. And they have this national fan base for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So when they're good, they show up and they show out and they go to the games and take over stadiums and all that fun stuff. It has nothing to do really with their fan base themselves. They're not a more passionate fan base than anybody else, but they got a lot of numbers. And I think a lot of Padres fans too have been just tired of having to go to some of these games and dealing with them, that, you see the tickets for sale and a lot of Dodger fans end up buying the tickets. But last night, there was a ton of Dodger fans there. I will say this, when it came to the playoffs and there was a little bit of a threat of them potentially losing the playoffs down there because they already lost the game up in L.A., they didn't show up. They did their parade thing yesterday through downtown. I thought that was kind of lame. I saw that on social media. That's the lamest way to say that you don't care about a team ever. Let's go parade through their downtown with a bunch of Dodger fans. That's just, first of all, it's asking for trouble. So that's all you need to know about that particular group of people that decided to do that. They're not there for the game. They're not there for the game. They're there to start stuff. But not more power to them. I guess if you want to do that, if that's your best way of showing that the Padres are irrelevant to you and it's not a rivalry and you don't care about the team down south, then by all means go for it. But I want to talk about a couple of things with the game yesterday, aside from the fans. We'll get to the fans in a second, because I didn't see too many fights, but I was in and out of there pretty quick. Let's talk about Game 1. I thought Game 1 was a heck of a baseball game between the Dodgers and the Padres. I thought both teams played exceptionally well. The pitching, you couldn't ask for better pitching in a game between Tyler Glasnow and Michael King. Just a phenomenal game on Friday night. It was great to watch. I watched it on TV. I went and played Torrey Pines on Friday with my buddy. It was his birthday. So we went and ended up going to a restaurant to watch the game, and that was just a great game. It was a quick game, too. But, the Padres got the one extra hit that they needed, that one long ball as well by Luis Campusano. And if you're playing the team like the Los Angeles Dodgers, it doesn't need to be sexy. You just got to find a way to win. And they got one extra run than L.A. did. That's all they needed. They had one less hit than L.A. did on Friday night. Michael King, outstanding performance and a great bounce back for a player that, struggled against this team the time before. He went out and got shelled at Dodger Stadium, which was actually his second time facing Los Angeles. And then in his third time, 7 innings, a shutout ball, 2 hits, 3 walks, 11 punch-outs. Guy's changeup was working, and he was almost unhittable. In fact, the 2 hits that he gave up were just kind of little infield knocks and little, duck snorts over the infield. That was it. aside from that, Michael King dominated that game. And then Matsui ran into some trouble there in the 8th inning. Padres got him out of it. And then Robert Suarez closed the door on a great Friday night for San Diego pitching-wise. And then you get to the bottom half. Ben Higgins called it in the morning. Haven't seen a walk-off yet for the Padres. Luis Arraez continues to do an excellent job in a Padres uniform. Talk about a guy, and I mentioned it last weekend, that has found a new lease on life being on the Padres and not with the Miami Marlins. I mean, that guy has been outstanding for San Diego since he arrived. He gets the walk-off hit. And here's the thing. When Campusano got the double to start the 9th inning, as long as Ha-Seong Kim didn't hit into some mysterious double play, which I didn't think he was going to do, Luis Arraez was going to win the game. I mean, you just knew Luis Arraez was going to win the game. He was going to get the knock to win the game, or if Kim got Campusano over to third base, he was going to get the sac fly to win the ball game for the Padres. And sure enough, Ha-Seong Kim did get hosed on one call during that at bat, but couldn't get the bunt down. Campusano, who then turned into Tyler Wade as a pinch runner, and at second base, Arraez base knocked to center, and the Padres win Game 1 2-1. Outstanding job. They increased their series lead over the Dodgers on the season by 2 games, and everything was looking good. And then came yesterday. And here's where, and I get it. All right, I understand. It's 162 games, and it's a righty, it's a left-hander on the hill, right? And we can use all of these phrases and baseball terms that we want in filling out a lineup. And I can hear, and again, I understand. They're all pros. I get it. Okay, I understand. It's the highest level of baseball. He's the best players in the world. But when I saw the lineup yesterday, I was like, with Matt Waldron on the hill, it's just like, this is an L. I mean, it's just you can't look at that lineup and be like, this is our best opportunity to win tonight. It's not. It's not your best opportunity to win. And they almost got, in fact, they got bailed out in Chicago with a couple of these lineups like this. And I know Tony said, like, well, these guys played really well and they played their hearts out. And, they did an outstanding job against Imanaga last week. I don't disagree with that. But 2 things could be true here. That's not the best lineup to win a baseball game for the Padres, and those guys played their hearts out. 2 of those things could both be true. But you look at the lineup last night. I mean, I'm wearing the Jurickson Profar t-shirt. I love Profar. Guy has played over his $1 million contract. As a baseball team, if Jurickson Profar is your 3-hitter, you are in some trouble. I don't care what his stats are. I understand there was a left-hander on the hill. But let's talk about Jake Cronenworth for a second. I have already mentioned a couple of times, I think it's worked out so far. But I'm not convinced that he is going to be the 3-hitter come playoff time. Because to me, this Padres team needs Jake Cronenworth hitting a little bit lower in the lineup to be a playoff caliber team. And he's done a phenomenal job this season. But if your 3-hitter on your ball club needs to be flipped out because you're going against a left-hander, and his left-handed numbers are not good. I mean, Jake Cronenworth's numbers against a lefty are not good. He's not a 3-hitter. He's just not. He's not a 3-hitter on a playoff team. The 1, 2, 3 on playoff teams, they hit righties and they hit lefties. So you take your 3-hitter out last night. You rolled Profar in the 3 spot. You got no Jackson Merrill in the lineup. I somewhat understand that because he is a rookie, right? But again, I mean, it comes to a point. I mean, I think the Dodgers did this for a while where they wouldn't let guys like Jock Peterson and like Cody Bellinger hit against a left-hander. And then they leave, and then all of a sudden they get to play a little bit more, and they put up some good numbers. I mean, let's not take the bat out of some of our guys' hands. Because the Padres themselves, they're better with Jackson Merrill in the lineup than they are with Jose Azocar. And they're better with Luis Campusano in the order than Kyle Higashioka. And I know Kyle Higashioka has been catching Waldron this season. So knowing that Waldron's on the hill, who, by the way, phenomenal yesterday, and I'm not a huge Waldron fan in terms of the fact that if the Padres want to be a playoff team, they can't have him they can't have him as the number 5 guy in the rotation. And I've heard the narrative, I've heard the arguments. Well, the 5 guy in the rotation usually doesn't do that well. Up to almost a 6 ERA for a playoff team, you could get better performance out of your 5 guy. 1 in 5 with a 5.49 ERA. But like I said earlier, last night, impressive again. This guy shut down the Dodgers twice. He gave up the 2 runs, right, and the 1 home run early. That home run early was just kind of muscled out, too, by the way. I mean, Freeman was way out in front of that pitch on the knuckleball and was out in front and just kind of flicked it barely over the fence. I mean, the exit velo on that thing had to be like 89 miles an hour, maybe 90 tops. That was probably a StatCast record for that home run. Softest hit home run in the StatCast era. I didn't see what the actual number was, but that thing floated out of here. But I thought Matt Waldron did well. But knowing that, and again, knowing that Waldron was pitching, which means Higashioka's catching, to me, you can't just unload the bench into the lineup. And I understand from all that, I get it. Giving guys rest, kind of that, it's been a long week, right? Playing all these games in a certain amount of days, even though they had Thursday off. Facing a left-hander who we've struggled against throughout the year. Not just Paxton, but just struggled against left-handers all year. To me, I think when you talk about, let's go back to the fan perspective. I'm going to incorporate all this right now. I think when it comes to the fan perspective of this particular series, and I know they don't care about this, but in a world where sports is entertainment, I think you need to understand this for a second, of what you're asking your fans to go through when it comes to this series against the Dodgers. Because to me, it's like, you go out there, and there's a reason why there's a lot of Dodger fans taking them to state. There's a lot of Padres fans that don't want to deal with that. I mean, I personally don't like dealing with that. If I go, I like going as a media member so I don't have to deal with some of the debauchery in the stands from Dodger fans. And I know Padres fans are a part of this too. It's just a bad environment when it comes to these two teams playing each other. But the rivalry's in the stands, it's not on the field. It's in the stands, it's not on the field. And I don't really have a problem with this. In this day and age, I mean, all of these athletes, they're all colleagues, and they all work together. They're all working for the same company. It's all Major League Baseball. And so they're all boys, which is fine. I mean, sometimes they get a little chippy, right, every once in a while. But, late in the game, Fernando gets the second, gives Mookie a hug. I don't really have a problem with that, all right? It's a different era now of professional sports. These guys are all making a lot of money. They're all friends. They've all played against each other, with each other in all-star games. I totally understand that. It's not a rivalry on the field as much so as it is in the stands. And when you're asking your fans to go out there, which, by the way, hats off to all the fans out there for setting a record at Petco Park. But you ask your fans to go out there and deal with the most obnoxious fan base in all of Major League Baseball, and you put this lineup together last night. And I understand. I get it. I get the righty-lefty matchup situation. I understand guys need rest. I get that. But it would have been nice to see a lineup that was almost the exact same as it was the night before. And I know that lineup didn't produce a lot of runs either. But it just kind of looked bad on when the lineup came out. It's like, all right, well, we're rolling with these guys. And I know they're on the team. You got to play them. They're pros too. I get it. But this is not your best opportunity to win, was last night's lineup, especially for a guy in Matt Waldron, who again, did a phenomenal job yesterday pitching for the Padres. He pitched well enough for them to win, who gets no run support whatsoever. It was tough sledding for the Padres at the back end of that order. And then on top of that, two of your most highly paid players went 0 for 8 combined with Machado and Bogarts. But that being said, you still got a 1-game lead on the Dodgers in the overall series this year, in the season series. I said going into the weekend, if you get one from L.A., you're in a good spot because you could take 2 out of 3 from Colorado and you're right back to where you were, going into this series. You're sitting there at 500. And at the end of May, if you're sitting there at 500, you're in striking distance and in a position to do well and do some damage when the schedule starts to lighten up a little bit. But yesterday, the lineup wasn't that great. It is what it is. And again, I understand. But, you got some guys at the back end of the order that just seem like they're automatic outs. And I understand Azocar's hitting 298 right now. He doesn't have that too many at-bats this season. And I think he's doing a good job for Jose Azocar. Here's the other thing, too. Like, the guys that are at the bottom of that order and the guys coming off the bench, they're playing to the best level that they could play at, and they're contributing to the team in every way they can. But that is a glaring weakness for this team. And the Stars do have to step up as well. But last night it came down to the 6th inning. And you had a guy in Adrian Morejon that hadn't walked anybody all year. He came in with 21 strikeouts and 1 walk. He walked 2 batters with a runner on first and 2 outs. Loaded the bases up. And De Los Santos with 2 strikes give up a grand slam, and that was it. I mean, at that point, that game was over. Because the Padres had struggled against Paxton throughout the entire night. And a guy that had a lot of walk and command issues and a Dodgers pen behind him that also on Sunday Night Baseball had a lot of walk and command issues on when the Padres beat Paxton last. 0 walks last night issued by Dodger pitching. 6 punch-outs. Padres walked 6. Walked 6 batters last night. Let me know what you think. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. We're going to dive a little bit more into the bullpen as well. We'll talk more about the game today. Seeing some of the questions in the chat. Also, we'll get to those. If you want to call the station, as I mentioned, 833-288-0973. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, off and running on a Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each and every Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Thanks for making our morning a part of yours. If you're getting ready for Mother's Day, picking up some flowers for your mom, if you haven't done that yet, better get up, get out, go get the flowers for the mom. I made my order yesterday. I'm going to be picking those up on the way home from the show. Got our card already as well, and I'm going to go hang out with some family today out in Lakeside. I'll be out in East County for all you East County peeps out there. Shout out to y'all. We'll be out there to hanging out with my grandmother, so my dad can celebrate Mother's Day with his mom. So wherever you guys are celebrating, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there that have done so much for all of us in supporting us and everything that they have done. So big shout out to all the moms out there. And I wanted to get that out there for you guys. The flowers, the card, maybe you're getting some supplies, surprise you with breakfast this morning, whatever you may be doing. Thanks again for making our day a part of yours. Talking Padres baseball, of course, and how they did against the Dodgers yesterday. Tough ball game. And I do have a question for you and everybody in the chat. I do want everybody to weigh in on the show before we get to Brandon El Cajon. So, Here's the question for everybody out there. And I want you to weigh in on social media. You can follow me at B_SURP, at BSURP, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You follow me on YouTube as well, at BSURP. I want your answer on this. Tweet at 97 through the Fan SD. Tweet at B_SURP. Put it in the chat. I need to know if one of my friends is the curse at Petco Park. I have to know. There is a little bit of a stipulation here, though. So, let me ask you this. I'm not blaming it on Kim or Salon. Everybody wants to blame it on somebody in the chat. I'm going to tell you right now, I got a new out for you. I got a new blame for the night losses at Petco, the bad record at home. I got one for you, but here's the stipulation. So my buddy, Matt, has yet to see a Padres victory at home this season. He's been to, I think, at least 7 games now. He has yet to see at least a win. I was undefeated at Petco Park, except for the times I attended with Matt. I was with Matt last night. One time, I will say, there's been one time the Padres won when Matt was there. That was this season. And here's the stipulation, guys. I need to know. You got to tell me if Matt's the fall guy and he's the problem, or if this win negates it. The one time the Padres won this year with Matt in attendance, he was supporting Nick Martinez, wearing a Nick Martinez jersey, which I fully support. I'm a big Nick Martinez fan. So he rolled up bought it at the garage sale, a camo Nick Martinez jersey. That was the game that he went to where Martinez was pitching and the Padres won that game, but he was supporting Nick Martinez. So are we thinking Matt is the problem here? I want to know your answers. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Put it in the chat. I just got to know. Is that enough of a curse to me? I told him, because he's going to the game tomorrow against the Rockies. I said, if the Rockies come into San Diego and beat up on the Padres tomorrow and you're in attendance, you're banned. I'm sorry. You're going to have to take one for the team and get out of here. But I will say this. If we're getting superstitious, together as a unit, me and my buddies, including Matt, when we watch Padres-Dodger games together in my house, undefeated. Every Sunday Night Baseball we won against them, bang, it's been at my house. Every time. We're now 2-0 at BJ's restaurant when they play the Dodgers, as dumb as that sounds. This Friday and the Friday before that. Even when Michael King got shelled for a little bit. So there are some good qualities to Matt here, but right now I think the Petco Park thing's not working. he's going to have to break that curse. But I think, right, I see a lot of people in the chat. They're saying that it might be Matt's problem. Because I think we're onto something here. The guys, I think 1-7 this year at Petco Park. That one time that he went where the Padres won, he was wearing the opposing team's starting pitcher's jersey, even though it was a Padres jersey. Want your thoughts on that? You can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, B_SURP. Need to get your hands. I think it's a Matt thing too. You know what? Matt, you got one more chance tomorrow, and if you go to the game tomorrow and the Padres lose, we're gonna have an intervention with the amount of times you go to Petco Park. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get to Brandon El Cajon. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Happy Mother's Day to everybody in your family out there.
Yeah, you too, and everyone else. Hey, it's not Matt, it's not Petco. It's this. They had a good game Friday night, and then they bring nothing to the ballpark the following day. This thing of Fernando hugging Betts on the base paths during the game. That's what's wrong with the Padres. They don't have enough intensity to put a winning streak together.
Brandon, let me. I got to ask you something right now, because I'm gonna poke a hole in that real quick. How many baseball games do you watch outside of the Padres? Like, how many other games? Like, just teams that don't involve the Padres. How many games do you watch?
I don't really watch hardly any.
I mean, I got, you know what, and I think this is tough for a lot of people that, grew up and have that, that intensity and used to watch a lot of baseball teams and professional sports where, there was that, hatred and competitiveness. I'm going to tell you, that happens in every game throughout Major League Baseball. And it's just the new day and age of professional sports nowadays, Brandon, where these guys are all, in reality, they all work for one company. They're all colleagues. Eventually, they might have to play on the same team, and they're all boys. That's how it is. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I could see why people do. And is it a bad look where you're down 5-0? You're giving the guy a hug at second base. I think a little bit, but at the same time, that's pretty common practice now, Brandon.
Oh, I know. I see Manny laughing and joking with the other team all the time, and the money has ruined the game really for me. This is why they can't put a winning streak together, though. They have a good game, and then they just don't bring it the next day. You can't be a playoff team and then play hit and miss. You have a good game, and then you come out and get thrashed because you don't have any intensity. It's just, like you say, I know the game has changed, but to me, it's hard to watch when they play like that.
I think it's tough too, Brandon. Baseball. I think you bring up some good points, and I appreciate the phone call. Thanks again, as always, for chiming in. Here's a couple of things that I do agree with Brandon on. Okay, the hugging. That's just people always go like, I would hate the other team until the series is over. The older I get, the more I realize, these are adults playing a child's game, right? And it's a tough comparison, but the same thing is like, you have these softball leagues out there and these groups of and really in the softball community is very, very cliquey. But like when I go to the Poway Sports, I know everybody out there because I've been playing there since I was 17 years old. And I've played on these teams. I've played against the teams for so long. And you start to know all of these people individually, and it's a lot more difficult to just hate them for no reason. And it's tough to say because it's like these guys all know each other. They go to each other's weddings. They're friends off the field, right? There's guys that go that potentially, and you see it sometimes where guys come from the same country and they dap each other up, or they're both from Japan and they're playing in a foreign country together. There's something about that, right? If you're an American and you were playing in Europe and playing soccer, you're not going to hate the other American that's out there. Like that's some common relationship that you have, right? That's that common practice. Like you're from the same area, and you understand that. I mean, there's a lot of guys now with the way that teams move all over the place. I mean, they've played with a lot of these guys. I mean, it's just a different thing nowadays. I do think the money is a little bit of a factor too. I mean, and it's not like, look, and I don't want to do the whole narrative like they're getting paid so much money they don't care anymore. But I do think there's something about that, right? Because everybody that's in the chat, everybody that's driving around, it's listening right now, you have your job, right? Everybody's got their job. I mean, everybody's got a job. Most people have a job. And whether it's a career that you love or a career that you hate, if you were making the kind of money, I mean, even if you were making like league minimum in Major League Baseball to a lot of people, because it's, $400,000 is the top 1% in the United States in earners. This is a job for these guys. As much as it's a game, and it's a fun game, and it's a child's game, and we all love watching this game, it's still a job to these guys. And when you have a bad day at work, and you come home, and you got, a great house, and you got a great family, and everything's working, and you're winning at life, it's hard to be upset, and it's hard to really, be about it on the field like that all the time. It is. That's just human nature, right? I mean, if you had a bad day at work and you came home, you're not going to dwell on it for the next 24, 48 hours. It's different though because it's sports, right? When it comes to sports, I mean, this is going to, last night's loss is going to bug a lot of people for a couple of days. I remember as a fan of the Chargers back in the day. I mean, when they lost, dude, it was like a week. It was like 2 or 3 days. It just ruined your week. But the guys on the team, I mean, they'd be upset for less than 24 hours. All right, we got to keep going, And it's just another day at work. I think the best way to describe it, my dad pointed this out to me one time when I was upset. It was when I was in college. I think TCU lost a rivalry game, whatever. And, the fans are upset, but then you look and the players are all, at the end of the game, they know each other, they're friends, whatever. They've known each other for a long time. And the meet and greet at the end. And he's like, look, I mean, he didn't say they didn't care. They obviously care about winning and losing, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal to them. It's not going to ruin their, friendships that they have. So I get it. I mean, that's just the way it is now. That's just, I have to keep reminding people about professional sports, right? It's not about the sport anymore. It hasn't been about the sport in a long time. It's about entertainment. I mean, the more you watch professional sports. The more you watch professional sports, the more you realize it's more like a traveling show. And a weekly, daily drama of an unscripted result that gets you on the edge of your seat. But it's about entertainment. It's about storylines. It's about seeing big names and do very incredible things. I mean, that's what it's for. The sport is for entertainment. These guys are entertainers, just in an athletic form. So as much as we talk about a rivalry of the Dodgers, and sure, both teams get the red ass. We see it. But at the end of the day, the rivalry's in the stands. It's not on the field. It's really not. And that's why I find it so annoying going to sometimes Dodger games. I mean, some big play will happen for the Dodgers. Like the Grand Slam yesterday, right? Which should never have happened. They had a 2-strike. The one thing you couldn't do right there is give up a home run and give up a 4-run dinger to basically blow the game open and just set yourself up. We'll see him tomorrow. But when that happened, you got all these Dodger fans acting like they accomplished something with their life because Teoscar Hernandez hit a grand slam. I did that. That was me. No, it wasn't, dude. That was some superstar athlete that hit a 90-something mile an hour fastball over 300 feet. He did that. You didn't do anything. That's why at the end of the day, and I'll keep saying it, the rivalry is in the stands. It's not on the field. Sometimes there are a little bit of chippiness. I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, I say, and it's a different scale with you at your local softball league. But there's teams that I can't stand as a team, right? At the Poway Sportsplex. But I like guys on their team. I'll play with guys on their team on other teams. You know, you have that relationship, right? You've played with them before. You understand that person. That's why you see when you get these benches clearing brawls, right? You got two guys on the team, I can't really describe it too much, but two guys that, you know, the local red ass on both teams, they interact with each other, and all of a sudden it's like, got to go protect my guy. And then in the scrum, you see like guys like Randy Arozarena putting his arm around, I think it was Wandy Peralta, you know, one of his former teammates that he used to play with. I mean, these guys have been trading teams and all this stuff all the time. It's going to happen. I got to take a quick break. We're going to get more of your phone calls here in a second. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. Taking your phone calls today, asking for your advice whether or not you think my buddy's cursed. Not really he being cursed, but him cursing the ball club. He's, I think, 1-7 this year. Has he been to that many games? I think he's 1-7 this year at Petco Park. As in, the Padres are 1-7 when he attends games. The one win that they had, he was wearing a Nick Martinez Padres jersey when Nick Martinez was on the mound. So, in essence, cursing Nick Martinez. So, I think we might be onto something. I said, if the Padres lose to the Rockies on Monday, because he's going to the game, he might be banned from Petco Park. We might have to ban him from Petco Park. Just to get the Padres on a winning streak for a little bit. My 2 cents. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show here, live and local each and every Sunday morning. You can follow me on social media at @B_SURP. I am on Instagram. I've already seen a couple of you message me on IG and drop a follow. Thanks again for following me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, X as well, at B_SURP. Find me on YouTube, also by the same handle, and I'm also on TikTok. So I also got to put some stuff on TikTok. But that's where we're at. We're talking Padres and Dodgers, big rivalry. I mean, a lot of people are making a thing about Fernando giving Mookie Betts a hug. It happens, dude. I mean, it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal now. I as a competitive person that I am, I mean, I dislike playing. I dislike my opponent. I respect my opponent, but I'm not like buddies with them at all times as a coach while I'm playing, maybe some softball. But even that, during the softball, it's like I know everybody on the other teams now. I've been playing out there long enough. I don't hate those individuals. You get to know them, right? So it's an interesting. I think it's kind of an old school mentality. I will say, and a lot of people in the chat are talking about the Dodger parade last night in downtown. That was kind of ridiculous. I mean, talk about a worse way to show that you don't care about the Padres. Oh, we don't care about them. Here's our parade into downtown. What? Here's where this is where I differ from Dodger fans all the time. See, I grew up a Padres fan. We haven't had like the biggest payroll ever. We haven't had World Series championships. We haven't had this, projected to be one of the best teams year in and year out, and the best team money can buy. I was a San Diego Chargers fan. It's the same thing. Hey, I went to TCU. It's kind of an underdog mentality over there. They've overachieved for the size of the school that they are. But still, it's like none of my teams are like the cream of the crop team. With the exception of like my high school, obviously, that I went to and where I coach, we have a target. We're probably the only team that has a target on their back. But how I view it, and this is how I view sports in general. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too on my teams or I take it too seriously. But I will say this. If my team is the favorite to win a World Series, or if my team is the favorite to win a game, and I really describe this more with college, because it happens, I think, more in college. As TCU, like when TCU plays, a lousy team in the Big 12 that they should absolutely hammer. And I'm talking mostly about football. Like if they played Kansas in football a couple of years ago, Kansas is good now, but I'm going to use them as an example. Those games are always close. And like they'd come back and win, and the fans would be going nuts, and I'd be just sitting there like stewing that we should have beat this team by 28 points. And we beat them by a field goal. Like you can't be excited about a game-winning field goal when you were expected to win, when Vegas said you're expected to win by 28. I find the same thing with Dodger fans all the time. They're expected to destroy most of Major League Baseball. You lose to a team like San Diego, it's embarrassing for them. It should be. But it's not. They act like they win the World Series after every single win against the Padres. And I find that rich. I mean, every time the Padres beat the Dodgers, here's the same thing you got to hear all the time. You got to hear this all the time. This is your World Series. How many rings do you have? The same nonsense you always got to hear. So it's not even really enjoyable when you beat them. They're just obnoxious. But when they win, when they won yesterday, every event that happened in favor of the Dodgers was like, I'm sorry, did they just break a record for something? I mean, there was a ground ball to shortstop at some point. The guy behind me acted like they won the World Series for just making a play. I couldn't believe it. Like, if the Dodgers came back to win, like they held on to win on Friday night, and I was a Dodger fan, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, are you kidding me? We're on this great streak right now, and like we let like this guy shut us down with a Michael King shut us down. I don't know. Maybe that's just a different perspective, right? Maybe that's like just a different perspective for me. But like when my team's the favorite to win, and you win like by a little, like not if you don't cover, I don't know. I find it a little embarrassing myself. And my buddy brought that up last night. He was like, if I go into a game, I use the line as kind of a good representation of how we did, right? So if he's a big UC Irvine fan because he went to Irvine, so he's a big basketball fan for Irvine. So when he goes in there, and Irvine's usually the top class of the Big West, if they're favored by 17 against Bakersfield, and he's leaving the Brent Event Center, and they won by 12, he's a little pissed off. It's like, hey, we didn't play that great. But if you're favored by 17 and win by 20, it's like, all right. Yeah, we kicked ass. We did good. We did what we were supposed to do. To me, with Dodger fans, any win for them, they act like it's the greatest thing that's ever happened, especially against the Padres. And it's just like, all right, dude, relax. Relax. I know you're in first place. Haven't done anything with it in the postseason. So the last thing you could really talk about is a Mickey Mouse World Series in 2020, or you could talk about 88. Go ahead. By all means. Whatever helps you sleep at night. But the best way to tell you, this is where you know we've made it, Padres fans. The Dodger fans had to do a parade downtown, down to Petco Park, and all their Dodger blue to say like how important they are. They ain't doing that in Colorado. I can tell you that right now. They ain't doing that in Arizona. It's a rivalry. They've bought in. They don't like losing to the Padres anymore. We'll see what happens today. I want to get back to more of your phone calls in just a little bit. We're kind of running close to time, but let's go on down to Chief in Chula Vista. Chief, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's happening? I just want to touch on something here. So I think it's ridiculous, and you talked about it. It's ridiculous to think that professional athletes don't care because of the money they're making, because I think we need to be real. They are professional athletes, are competitive in everything they do, and for the most part, throughout their lives, coming up, they're winners, right? They want to win all the time. They should win all the time, right? They're the best athlete in their age group as they come up.
They've all had success, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but myself being competitive and looking back to high school years, I grew up in a small town. I knew people from across town. We went to the same parties on the weekends and did things that high schoolers probably shouldn't be doing together. But before the game, we saw them. You just kind of like look over on the other side of the court. You just, hey, what's up? But I'm not walking over there. I'm not shaking hands, and coach would never allow that. There's no way I would even attempt that. But I think what does, I think for fans maybe, and why people were kind of dogging on Tatis for getting that hug, was it appears that maybe you focus, right? Like before the game, you should be locked in. You practice your craft, you get locked in, you're ready to go out there and launch something over the wall or make an amazing play. Like can't wait to beat this team, whatever you got. But I think it just appears that you lack focus. And I think I personally don't like it myself, but obviously nothing goes through me, and I don't give them their paychecks. So that's what I got on that.
Well, Chief, I appreciate the phone call. Sorry, pushed you close to the top of the hour, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. Talking about curses at Petco Park. We're talking about my buddy, 1-7 at Petco. Most people in the chat say he should be banned if the Padres lose on Monday. That's the next game he's attending. Good news, Padres fans, he's not attending tonight. Or today. Let's see how the Padres do without him in attendance. Also talking about how the Padres did. A lot of conversation about the hug last night between Tatis and Mookie. It's a non-issue. It is such a nothing burger. Nothing burger. I understand some of the perspective from people about being a competitor. Hey, that's my friend. But then when we play, we're enemies, and kind of attitude like that. And I'm a highly competitive person too, and I've played against my friends before as well. But this day and age is different. And I think, JJ's got in the chat's got a good comment. Imagine if you were told you couldn't be friends with somebody you knew growing up because they now work for a competitor. I think from that perspective, it makes it kind of ridiculous as well. Like, there's a lot of people, not really a lot, but in the industry here, just in radio, like radio and TV, right? I mean, we go against a lot of different outlets out here in town, competition, and I have a friendly working relationship with everybody in town, right? I mean, you could talk about if we're just talking sports talk radio, the guys get across the street, like, we get along with them just fine in different entities, right? When we're in the press box and all these other stuff. Like, we hate the guys across the street. I mean, a lot of the guys across the street used to work with guys that work here at some point or another in town. And I know that's true because I grew up listening to all these guys, and they used to be on one station. And some of them interact. I mean, I work with Jack Cronin at USD. He works at Kogo across the street. I mean, that's a competitive deal. I'm not just like, hey, brr. It's different. I think it's different in the working environment. Again, we got to stop viewing it like this is not just like your local high school rivalry and you just happen to know a kid that went over to your rival. You guys have this is a job, this is work, right? It's a different entity. You guys working in, construction, all the different construction companies out there, guys jump around and go to different companies. They're not your boy anymore because he's at a different. I mean, it's silly. It's foolish. It is what it is nowadays. It's a different game now with the way that some of these guys interact. And I honestly don't really have a problem with it anymore. I don't. Want to get back to your phone calls, 833-288-0973. I do want to talk about the Padres bullpen too. Oh my God. I thought that was going to be the biggest strength of this team. Man, they are not right now. You have nothing to Robert Suarez. I mean, there is no... Who is your go-to bullpen arm? Not named Robert Suarez. Like, who do you have in the eighth? We got a revolving door going back there, but it's not... I mean, it's not Johnny Brito. After the last two outings of De Los Santos, is it De Los Santos? I don't think so. I mean, he was probably one of your better guys back there. Matsui has been kind of a circus the last couple of times. It's not Johnny Brito. I'm not putting Johnny Brito back there. Morejon looked really good, and then he got into a tough spot. He walked two guys for the first. He had one walk going into that outing last night. On the season, he had two in that outing. It's not him. Go through the bullpen. It's just like, you're not putting your Rule 5 draft kid out there. I think Kolek's did a pretty good job for being a Rule 5 pick. They need some bullpen help. I mean, they need some low heart rate guys. Just settle in and shut the door. Kevin Acee had a internal. He didn't have an internal. He had an article this morning, and we're going to get into about the Padres having internal discussions about adding some relief pitching. Oakland Athletics. Hey, they got some bullpen arms. Ken Rosenthal mentioned how much it would cost to potentially get Miller. No, that's a non-starter for me. We're not trading you Jackson Merrill for that. No, absolutely not. If you could swing a trade with Oakland around the deadline for Ursig and Miller, hey, sounds good. And somebody told me the other day, what do we need extra bullpen pieces for? You can never have enough pitching, one. And could you imagine a 7, 8, and 9 with, in any order, Ursig, Miller, and Suarez? Sounds good. Sounds good. I would imagine more. Where I was sitting in the stands last night, I have zero look at the strike zone. I mean, I could have posted one of those memes where it's like, you missed that one blue, and it's just this picture from like outer space at some of these ballparks. I was down the first base line in the field section, but like the upper one. And I mean, you couldn't see any. I have no idea where Morejon was missing, but there was a couple times where I'm like, where did that miss? I mean, you're talking about a guy that's got one walk all season. He walks 2 in the same outing. Come on. Had to be getting a little squeezed. 833-288-0973. We're getting the bullpen in just a second. Let's go down to Chula Vista again. Vince on hold. Vince, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. You're exactly right about this rivalry thing. It gets awfully frustrating for fans, especially when the Dodgers come in and it's a pseudo home game for the Dodgers. I was downtown last night or yesterday before the game, and there was like a parade of Dodger fans downtown. So the frustration is real. But you know what really is silly to me? Xander Bogaerts forgetting how to hit. That's kind of silly. What also is silly, and I don't understand this, and I know the skipper has, of course, way more information than we have, right? But what I don't understand is resting Cronenworth, Jackson Merrill, and Capisano a night game after a night game. I checked the Dodger lineup. Freddie Freeman was in there. Mookie Betts was in there. Will Smith was in there. Our backup catcher can hit and can't catch, and this is a results-based industry, and so it's not harsh to say that given the amount of money these guys are making. So I think that's kind of silly, and I'm just hoping that, that whole hugging at second base, that's just noise. The real stuff is Fernando's not hitting, Manny's not hitting, and if there's any team that this fan base outside of the Colorado Rockies that we really want this team to compete and go up against, is the Dodgers, because of that rivalry that happens in the stands. And so anyway, Braden, great show. You know what, one thing I wish that you had the mid-morning gig all to yourself, because, man, you rock that thing. And so continue to do it. Love listening to you. And go Padres today with Darvish. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate the phone call and obviously the nice words. I talked a little bit about that to start the show. And it's funny, man. On YouTube, it's like you got like 2 people in the first segment, 8 in the morning on a Sunday. We might have to push back the time of this deal to get people going. But I did mention that. I did talk about Waldron was outstanding. You know what? I think we found our next Eric Lauer. I mean, if Matt Waldron could just be the Dodger kryptonite, keep him on the team. I mean, I'll keep a roster spot for him. I mean, they cannot. I mean, they did not put a lot of good swings together on him. But let's talk about some of the points that Vince brought up, and I agree with a couple of them. You talk about this lineup, and here's the excuse they're going to give you, or the reasoning. I want to say an excuse and a reasoning, Vince, about. Well, it's up to 63 now. It was like 3 when the show started. Here's where I agree with Vince. Okay, so here are the answers that the Padres are going to give Vince. If Vince was like telling that to Mike Shilton and company, they would go, well, we prefer Higashioka catching Waldron. He's more experienced at doing it, and they have a good camaraderie, yada, yada, yada. And to be honest with you, as bad as Higashioka looks trying to catch a knuckleball, Campusano looked just as bad trying to do it as well. It's hard to do. And that's more of a Matt Waldron problem, and I'll talk about Matt Waldron in a second. But the thing with Matt Waldron is, too, it's like, look, and here's my problem with Matt Waldron being the fifth starter. His best pitch and really his only pitch of why he's in the major leagues is his knuckleball. That's why he's in the pro. I mean, his other stuff's just average, average to below average major league stuff. Go check his baseball savant numbers on his sweeper and all his other stuff. But the big reason why he's out there is his knuckleball. You can't really locate a knuckleball very successful. You don't really know where it's going. And Matt Waldron doesn't know where it's going. And Kyle Higashioka and Luis Camposano don't know where it's going. And the best pitch that he has, nobody can catch it, which is a problem. And the Padres got out of one of those jams, if I'm not mistaken. I think Freddie must, I think he got on either a single or something else. He got to second on a pass ball, got to third on a pass ball. A wild pitch. It's probably a wild pitch. And then you got a guy on third base with like nobody out. Right? I mean, that's it's like giving away stolen bases. But the reason why Higashioka was in last night, he catches Waldron. So that's already camps out of the lineup. Which, if that's the case, I wouldn't mind him DHing, but then you go into like, well, what happens if Higashioka gets hurt? Then we have to burn the DH. I mean, that's kind of a risk you have to take, right? But he's out of the lineup. And then on top of that, and then this is what they're going to say, Vince. They're going to be like, well, we're going against a left-hander. We haven't done well against left-handers all season, so we're going to mix it up. We're going to put some right-handers in the lineup. So they got Azakar in there instead of Merrill, and they left Arise in because Arise can hit. I mean, even though he does better against righties than he does lefties, he's still an insane hitter, right? I mean, you don't win batting titles only hitting righties, right? So he was going to stay in. So he stays in, and they take Cronenworth out. Which, I don't really agree. I understand the lefty-righty thing, but sometimes I feel like you just overcomplicate things on that. If your number 3 hitter, your daily number 3 hitter in the lineup is a guy that you have to take out against the lefty, he's not a number 3 hitter. And I think Jake Cronenworth's done a great job. He's done a phenomenal job this year. It's such a great bounce-back year this year. His numbers against the lefty are not good. You can't have your 3 hitter doing that. So I agree with Vince. I mean, you got guys in that Dodger lineup. It was the same lineup they had last night or 2 nights ago. It seems like it. Might be not the exact lineup, verbatim, but I mean, they keep their dudes in. I mean, their dudes need to play. So you already have a guy in Matt Waldron, right, that does not get any run support whatsoever. Goes out and gives you an outing that's good enough to win. He ends up getting dinged for another run because he's the one that put one of those guys on base. He put Shohei. Was that Shohei? I think he put Shohei on base on the grand slam. But he already doesn't get enough run support. He gives you a great line. 5 1/3, 2 runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Give up that, the one that Freeman flicked out of the ballpark. You should be in a spot where you can win. And the thing is that lineup last night, and I know, and the thing is, Tony Gwynn Jr. mentioned it on the roundtable about the same kind of lineup that went against Imanaga last week. That almost won that. That's a game that they should have won against Imanaga, where you had it was the same deal. You have one of your, probably your 5 starter now until Musgrove comes back and then kind of reshuffles things in Randy Vasquez, and you put together the same lineup and you almost get bailed out for it. But and I know they played hard against Imanaga, but that's not your best opportunity to win, the lineup they put out last night. And I think what's frustrating for Padres fans, and Vince says it, I got to go down to Petco Park, right, as a fan. I'm just talking from a fan perspective. You won last night. You won on Friday night, so it's going to be even. The Dodgers are going to be going after it. And you got tickets to Saturday, and you got to deal with all the Dodger fans in the stands. And it's like, you look at the scoreboard, and you can look at that lineup last night, and Matt Waldron on the hill, and you're just like, this is going to be a tough ball game. And it was. I mean, just a tough ball game last night. I think where it gets fans frustrated is, to me, I think, and again, these guys that get paid to make these lineups, to control everything, they're worried about a 162-game season. They're not worried about one series in May, right? Because at the end of the day, they could still win this series in May and take a 2-game lead in the season series over the Los Angeles Dodgers by going out today. But I think what frustrates Padres fans, it's not just Padres fans, I think it's just baseball fans in general, are these, like, you get game 1 win, and then game 2, let's rest a bunch of guys, and then go after it game 3. Instead of just going, we're going after it the first 2 games, and then the last day, maybe we'll mix in some guys where we already won the series. But even that, it was the same thing. It was, and I know you eventually got to give some guys some rest, but as Chris Ello mentioned, I don't think you could do multiple guys in the lineup on the same day. I mean, mix in some of these players. There's a reason behind their madness. I understand. You know what? From a coaching perspective, everybody looks at things differently. I mean, I do different things too, and I coach a different sport at a way lower level. These guys got numbers behind it. They got reasoning. They got meetings on it. I mean, they it's not like they're just going like, hey, let's just give up guys a bunch of days off. But I think the frustrating thing for Padres fans is you got the Dodgers in town. You got them on Friday. It'd be nice to stick it to them again on Saturday, and then you're playing for a sweep on Sunday because you went with your best guys throughout instead of worrying about resting and stuff. When you have a series against Colorado, who you've already played this season. I know they went 2-2 up there, but you already played them without Manny for the full series. I mean, you could find games against Colorado to kind of put some guys in resting-wise and then have them almost have the week off before you go out to Atlanta because you got Thursday off. That's what's frustrating, I think, to Padres fans is games and series against like big teams like the Dodgers, giving some guys some rest on top of days where you got backup catcher in because of Waldron pitching, and it's against Los Angeles or one of the top guys. But now it's we're going to, I would imagine today's probably one of the top lineups again. And it was frustrating when Bud Black used to do it. He used to do it on the final day. It's frustrating for Padres fans to see now in Game 2. I mean, at this point, in this day and age of Major League Baseball, I think one of the games in the 3-game series is going to be a rest day for multiple guys, and that seems to be the case for a lot of different teams. Although we'll see what the Dodgers do today. If the Dodgers roll out the same lineup they did the first 2 days, then all of a sudden you got to start talking. Well, I mean, this team is the best team in baseball on paper. They're supposed to be, and they continue to roll out the same lineup. But, I mean, you got 3 games against the Rockies you can mix guys in, and you have an off day Thursday before a tough road trip. I get it. Look, I understand. I understand where they're coming from, but I also understand the fan perspective on this as well. Want to get back to more of your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's go out to Jamie and San Ysidro. Jamie, what's going on?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Kind of a tough one to watch last night. Friday was exhilarating.
Yes.
Thought that was fantastic. I mean, we got 1 win. Let's hope for 2 out of 3, but, I'm not going to set my hopes too high and then be disappointed. But I did have a comment about people saying about all the Dodgers fans. There was a track of Dodgers fans at the game on Friday, and that's going to happen every game. People are selling their tickets because Major League Baseball jacked up the prices for the Yankees games, the Dodgers games. It's insane how much they are compared to a Rockies game or something like that. It's triple the price. And I think some people realize that their season tickets are very expensive, and they're going to sell some of those. I can't go to every game. I have season tickets. There's absolutely no way I can go to every game. And people complain about all the Dodgers fans and people selling all the Dodgers. And well, who cares? Padres are making their money. Ticket sales are being made. Quit your whining.
Yeah, I mean, I get it too, and I you know what, and Jamie, I appreciate the phone call. Here's my take on the selling tickets thing. I really don't have a problem with it. Dude, calling from a landline. I don't have a problem with it just because, it's your money. You could do with it what you want. It's your tickets. You could do with them what you want. I don't think you need to financially, take one for the betterment of the team in this particular case. And they are more expensive. I mean, if you look at the season ticket, even like the 20 gamers, they give you what the face value is for every game. And there's games that, whatever you paid for per ticket, like at the end of the season, when you pay let's say you pay $5,000 for the tickets, right? Whatever like the amount of tickets you got, if you distribute it evenly, the Rockies games are going to be under that ticket value, and the Dodger games are going to be over that ticket value. So you could, you're making all your money on those games on top of the fact. I think the other thing, too, is like people don't want to go and deal with Dodger fans. I mean, I don't. I have no interest in going to, as a fan, no interest to going to a Padres-Dodgers game ever. I've done it enough. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's better when they win, obviously. I don't mind going up to L.A. every once in a while and see the Padres play on the road. And, unless you sit in the bleachers, it's not that. It's actually mellower at Dodger Stadium than it is down here in San Diego with the Dodger fans that come down here as opposed to the Dodger fans that are up there. Again, unless you're sitting in the pavilion, which is kind of the case anywhere. But that being said, when it comes to the tickets and everything, here's the deal. If you want the Dodger fans to stop showing up, right? The only thing that discourages fans from showing up on the road is their team continually getting their ass kicked. I mean, that's basically it, right? Like if the Dodgers came down here and got their ass kicked every single time, they would never come down here because they wouldn't be able to talk smack. I mean, that's the only reason why they like coming down here is because their team is loaded, they win all the time, and then they can talk smack on the way out. I mean, that's why they love coming down. And plus, it's a way better place than Dodger Stadium. You go to the Gaslamp. I mean, they got nothing up there like here. But I'm going to tell you right now, if the Dodgers were not good, they wouldn't be showing up. They wouldn't. But not only that, if the Padres routinely kicked their ass, they wouldn't show up either. It's not the fans' fault. I mean, you don't like it, play better. I mean, that's literally what it is when it comes to these like rivalry games. And here's the deal. Like, I love Padres fans out and about on the road. I think it's awesome. But I'm going to tell you right now, in 2013, you turned on a Padres game outside of Petco Park on the road, you would see like 3 Padres fans. And whether it was Channel 4, Fox Sports San Diego, Bally Sports, they would find those fans, and those would be the fans coming in and out of break like the entire game. You would get so much TV time in San Diego. Now, you watch the Padres play the Diamondbacks, they like take over the Costco that they play at out there in the desert. I mean, you watch the Rockies game, it looked like there was more Padres fans there than Rockies fans. It's because the Padres are good now. I mean, with the new schedule, I'm finding different games to go to. It's fun when your team's good. When your team's not good, it's not fun spending all this money to fly across the country to watch the Padres play the Yankees at the Bronx. It's not fun. You want to see your team win. Padres win. You go out there and you participate. Here's where I remember Dodger fans weren't doing anything. In those mid-2000s years when they had the ownership disaster. And yeah, the money, it was the lot. I think there was like a divorce or something in the ownership. I don't know the exact details. The Dodgers were not very good. And I mean, these are years where the Padres were winning the division at 82 and 80. I mean, like 04, 05, 06, 07. The Dodgers were not good. And there were nobody at those games. Nobody. Look at old footage from those games. You look at Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, empty. So to say like, oh, they would be doing that all the time if their team was bad, BS. There's not a single fan base out there that supports their team as much as they pretend that they support their team. When the team's good, you're there. When the team sucks, nobody's going. That's how it works. I mean, people like to talk about Cardinals fans. Cardinals fans are great. They always support. Look at last year, mid to late in the season when the Cardinals were awful. Look at Busch Stadium. Empty. Place was desolate. There was nobody there. Cardinals, best fans in baseball. Empty. Team's not good, not showing up. So if you want the Dodger fans to stop showing up, you got to play better. That's what it is. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. Kathy, Mitch, Rolando, please stay on hold. I think we got Jeremy as well. We're going to get your phone calls when we come back. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each and every Sunday morning. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. Long night last night. I had to bang it early because obviously I had the show today. Went out in the gas lamp after. That's why I love the 5:40 starts. You have time to go out in the gas lamp a little bit and get home at a decent hour. I was able to check out a new, well, it was new to me. I was told about a new taco shop. Well, I was told about a place downtown. Taqueria Los Chuquis? Chuchis? I don't know. I went down there. It's on 4th Ave. It was pretty good, dude. I thought it was pretty awesome. My buddy Zach lives down there on 4th, and he was like, "You got to check out this place on 4th Avenue." And so I went down there. Yeah, I was at Mr. Tempo last night. That's a place. That's a place. Song's dream. Cruised over from Mr. Tempo down to this taco place on 4th Avenue. Chuchis? Taqueria de Chuchis? I'm probably totally butchering that. But anyway, I got the Al Pastor California burrito. I don't give high ratings. I don't give really high ratings. 9.2. 9.2 out of 10. That thing was, oh man, that was good. And I was sober when I ate it, so it's not like I, needed the munchies. But that's a hell of a burrito right there. And I will be going back to consume another one. That was top notch. And so my buddy Zach, thanks for the recommendation. That was great. I might have to hit that up the next time I go down to Petco Park. It's pretty good, dude. I thought it was great. It's on 4th Avenue. I mean, it looks like Tacos El Gordo. I mean, everything about it looks the same. But Taqueria de Chuchis, it's pretty good stuff. It's a little expensive, but you got a nice little charcoal taste to it, nice little charcoal lime. I don't know if they Uber Eats. I thought it was really good. I mean, you got to give it yourself. I don't give out high ratings for burritos, but it was pretty money. So you guys have to be the case. I think, and here's my deal on Mexican food in town. I'm not the person that says, like, this taco shop's the best. I appreciate all taco shops in town. I think there's at least 2 to 3 good ones per part of the county. And everybody, like, backs their own local taco shop. I totally understand that. I'm not going to say that the one that I like is the best, but I am going to appreciate all types. Here, I'll put it in the chat because I can't pronounce it. It's Taqueria Los Chuchis. It's pretty good, dude. Cotillas is good. Diesel, been there. I mean, I could list 1,000 places that I love in San Diego. All I know is that you cross the county line in Orange County, it starts to fall off. But anyway, 9.2, dude. It's pretty good. I put it in the chat if you want to check it out. I thought it was pretty good. Get back to your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's go out to New Jersey, where Mitch is standing by. Mitch, what's going on? Long time no talk.
Yeah, what's going on? How you doing? Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Mr. Jack of all trades, it's good. Keep busy. If you love your work, it's not work.
That's right. That's what I believe in. I love talking sports. What do you got for me today, Mitch?
And maybe the San Diego should do what the Sixers did. If they don't sell out, whatever tickets don't get sold, buy them up and give it to charity. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that could use gifts in charity, unfortunately.
Right, absolutely.
You see Soto's having a good year?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope this trade works out. We get some done, but he's having a great year. I think, I know he's pitching, but look at the hitting that the Dodgers have, the Phillies, the Braves. I mean, we had him. Our lineup's pretty good, but just imagine we had Soto. I mean, that's why I got to say it's offense. I want to see more home runs. I want to see Machado and Tatis pick it up, earn their money like you. Have a nice week, and thanks for taking my call.
Well, I appreciate that, Mitch. Thanks for stopping by. I haven't heard from Mitch in a long time. But, yeah, I mean, we knew Soto was going to have a good year, guys. I mean, it's a contract year for him. He turned down $400 million with the Nats. He was going to have a good year. And he's having a good year. But my game went pretty good against the Dodgers on Friday to me, you can't evaluate trades until it's near the end, and we'll see what happens with Juan. I mean, I don't know what team he's going to be playing for next year. I mean, he didn't really sound like he was planning on staying in New York for a long period of time. And he's going to go through the contract process and the free agent process, and we'll see what's going on. Now, everybody in the chat is hungry. All of you in the chat, please sure to hit the like button on the video. Help the algorithm there online. Thanks to all of you tuning in on YouTube. Thanks to all of you listening on the radio. We are live on X. We are live on Instagram, on my Instagram, B_SURP. Live on YouTube, my page, and 97.3 The Fans page. I think that's it. No, live on Facebook as well. And Twitch. So shout out to all of you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. While I get back to more of your phone calls, let's go to Kathy in LA. Kathy, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. The one thing I have an issue with when they sit guys down is when they do it at home. When Ned Yost was coaching the Royals, that's one thing he swore he would never do. If he was going to rest guys, he was going to do it on the road, because he said, it could be one game that a family could afford to get to one year, and they came to see a certain player, and then at that home game, well, they're not playing. So I don't know why they can't. If they're going to sit guys, they can't do it when they're on the road, because it's true. With the prices of the games these days, you're going down to see a player, and you get there, and it's like, well, they're not even playing today.
Yeah, I understand that, Kathy, but I mean, at the same time, that's a big, that's another, even on the road too. I mean, there's a lot of people like that don't get to see Fernando and Manny play that, maybe bought tickets, maybe you're the Padres fan that lives outside too. And you have even less opportunity to probably see these guys. So it's kind of tough with the amount of games they play. They obviously need some time off. I don't think it's as egregious as like the NBA with load management, but I understand where you're coming from on that. It's very expensive to go to these games, and if your favorite player is not in the lineup that night, it'd be tough to have that be your only game.
And
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
And anyway, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I'm missing my mom today as usual, but, just make sure you tell your mom how much you love her today.
Absolutely, Kathy. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the phone call, and make sure everybody is doing that. I already mentioned earlier today, and the Padres just put out their Happy Mother's Day social media post with all the players and their moms, which is great to see. And if you're blessed to still have your mom around, please give her that hug and tell her how much you love her and bring her the flowers and all that stuff. We'll be picking up flowers on the way home for my mom that I ordered yesterday. Let's get back to the phones. We'll try to get two more in before we have to get the break. Stephen Poway, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, good morning, Braden. Hey, first off, I wanted to say I'm going to agree with that caller you had about 3 calls ago that says you deserve to have that mid-show. I'm just telling you, you're way better, and you have a great show on the weekend, but I think you deserve that mid-show. Anyway, that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit about the post-game because Sam Levitt was talking. The whole thing was all about the pitching. And I get that we have an issue with the pitching, but I don't think that's our major problem on this team. And it seems like it's like we got these 2 white elephants in the room, and it's talked about, but maybe not enough. I think the biggest problem with this team is Manny Machado and Bogart. 100% the biggest problem on this team. Manny was hired to be the leader that he hasn't been as far as on the field. He wasn't last year. He hasn't been this year. Bogart, we shouldn't have got him in the first place. Nobody thought we needed him in the first place. So now he goes demoted from shortstop to second base. He gets demoted from leadoff to 5th. Why they would put him in an RBI spot, I'll never know. Then they move him down to 6th. The bottom line is if his name was Merrill, he'd be down in the minor leagues right now. And I've never got the 2 wrongs making a right, where you've got a guy you're paying a ton of money to hurt your team. And that's pretty much what we got. So let's pay you $25 million to hurt our team out there every game. I don't know if he can be put in the minors. I think that's where he belongs until he starts to gets the game together, because he's killing the team every game. I think he's 0 for 15 in the last 4 games.
Yeah, Steven, I appreciate the phone call and thanks again for the kind words. Here's the deal on Bogarts and Machado. They're never going to send any of those guys to the minor leagues, and I'm pretty sure in the contract they probably can't. But here's the deal. I mean, Xander is just this is the worst he has ever played in his career. I mean, it is flat out the worst he has ever played in his career. And, he's fine. It's what they say. I mean, he doesn't have, who knows about the wrists. And the last thing they want to do is say that he's got anything going on with his wrist, because that's going to create more havoc with this potential downside of Xander Bogaerts. I think there's some play here in what Xander signed up for and what he is currently getting. Because he signed up to be the everyday shortstop of the San Diego Padres. I think they messed around with him a little bit too much. But I don't think that's the only reason why he is having issues right now. He is a tinker. The guy, and I've defended Xander so many times, he is thinking way too much. I mean, the fact that, and I keep going back to this because I think it's important. The fact that Xander Bogaerts admitted that in the at-bat in which he hit the home run, which is now a couple of weeks ago, where he said he went from a leg kick to a toe tap mid at bat, tells you everything you need to know about where his headspace is right now. And that is, I got to find any possible way to potentially get a hit. I mean, he's admitting that he's not playing well. I mean, I like, it's better than him just pretending that nothing is bad. But you're right. I mean, to me, and there's nothing really you could do. I mean, they just got to pull themselves out of it. Now, Machado, I'm going to give him a little bit of slack just because we've seen him pull out of this. And I saw a stat last night, a couple weeks ago. It was like Manny Machado on I think it was like May 8th or 10th or something like that, the last 2 years, has had the exact same stats to that point. Last 2 years. He's had the exact same stats. He always starts off slow. Had a little bit of the injury of the elbow. I mean, not playing third base and being a DH for a guy that always plays third base and doesn't really DH. I mean, I'll buy it. I'll give him the excuse. Sounds good. With Xander, I mean, here's the thing, and here's my thing on. I like Xander Bogaerts. I like the fact that he's part of the Padres, and I'm not going to hate the guy for the contract that he signed, because it's not him that you should be upset about. It's the team that gave him the contract. Xander Bogaerts signing here is not Xander's fault. The Padres going out and getting a shortstop they didn't need and giving him $25 million is not Xander's fault. That's the Padres' fault. And how they have treated the situation since then is the Padres' responsibility. And I don't think it's all on just Bogaerts moving to second. He's really filling in. Really good job. He's learning how to play second base. Really elite defender at second base. But the thing with Xander Bogaerts, I mean, what he signed up for and what it is right now are two totally different things. And here's the deal with both Manny and Bogaerts. And Tatis is hitting right now. I know somebody said Tatis isn't. I know he's hitting 256. Look at his baseball savant page. I mean, his exit, he's tagging the ball. He's not getting lucky. But here's the thing. Those guys are both under contract for a long period of time. You committed to them. You have to roll with them. This is it. So whatever you got to do to get them straight is what you got to do. But to say that, we got to move them out of the lineup, we got to do this, that ain't happening. You spent the money already. You don't get a get out of jail free pass with Xander Bogaerts when it comes to his contract. We'll talk more about that when we come back. I'm like way over break. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We are going to get back. Final segment, final thoughts before we continue into 2 weeks from now. I'll be off next week. The Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. It's going to be a quick segment here to finish up the show. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning. Already ran out of time talking Padres baseball. It's 2 hours, man. Flew by. They flew by. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning. As I mentioned, we will be off next Sunday. Padres play the Braves in Atlanta at 10:30 in the morning. So no Braden Surprenant Show. I will also be out of town, going to my brother's graduation in Tennessee. But I do want to mention a couple of things here on this Xander Bogaerts talk. You can't trade. Are you kidding me? You know what you have to give up in order for somebody to take any part of that contract? Here's what a trade would have to look like. You would have to give up probably Ethan Salas and DeVries, and probably one of, if not both, of Lesko and Snelling. And they would probably only take 50 to 75% of that contract for Xander Bogaerts. That's what the trade would have to be. I mean, that would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. I would rather pay Xander Bogaerts $25 million to play for the Padres than pay him $10 to $15 million to play for somebody else. Let's not get overwhelmed here because the guy has had a tough start. And again, I think a lot of people like to jump on him because the Padres signed him when they didn't need him, like it was his fault. It's not his fault. I mean, we're sitting here looking at this, and it's Xander Bogaerts is hitting 204. We got to get rid of this guy. Kim's hitting 209, and we want to sign him to a contract extension. I mean, are you out of your minds? Are you kidding me? Ha-Seong Kim hits 209. We must extend this guy. Bogaerts in 204. We must trade this guy. I mean, in a couple of at-bats, they might be hitting the same thing. At least you could say, oh, well, Kim's got a 679 OPS. Give me a break. We must trade Bogaerts in 204. But Ha-Seong Kim, let's give him a contract extension. Come on now. Xander Bogaerts has a proven track record where he's won multiple World Series and hit 270 last year. Ha-Seong Kim had one good year, and he turns 30 next year. And last year, it was like a couple of months. And by the way, I told you about his fastball numbers. Even last year, he couldn't hit a fastball, especially one over 93 miles an hour. Let's kind of think about this for a second. We got to trade Xander Bogaerts. He's not playing well, but you've committed to him and Manny. I don't have a problem with Manny either. I think both of those guys are going to figure it out. They're locked in. So why root against them? Just root for them. Let them do their thing. Padres are still sitting at 500 right now. They're in a good spot. Win today. Be 2 games up on the season series against the Dodgers, which they haven't won that in ages. Don't have to worry about them for a long period of time. You get into a more comfortable schedule through half of June and then most of July and August, where you can rack up wins and not have to worry about it. Don't need to trade Xander Bogaerts. Unbelievable. Might need a couple bullpen pieces for in front of Robert Suarez. Didn't really get full into that. We'll talk about that tomorrow on the Annie and Elston Show from 10 to 2. I'm Braden Surprenant signing off. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every Sunday morning. We'll see you in 2 weeks on 97.3 The Fan.